have a packing company right now, and I am in nursing school. So when I'm finished nursing school, I plan to teach. I was interested in joining the narrative just to become a part of something I think is amazing. I think it's amazing to be a light for people, be a cheat sheet for people, young women, anybody, to help them grow, to help them learn, evolve, and just get through life as happy and as peaceful and in harmony as they can. So, and you're great, Amber. So
thank you, girl. Thank you.
So I grew up with my mom, of course. My mom has 2 girls. I'm the youngest of 4 biologically. And growing up, it was sort of, all right, so living in a house with my mom was a little bit toxic. And I say toxic because she had things that she was dealing with, of course, mental health things. And at that age, I didn't quite understand what it was. You know, we just knew that mommy was strong. We knew that she got things done. She was supportive and things like that. But it was a lot of things going on in the background that I was oblivious to. We knew that something was going on, but we couldn't, as young women, couldn't quite put your finger on it. My dad passed away when I was a teenager, and that's when my stepdad was introduced. So for majority of my life, I lived in a 2-parent home. Not necessarily, I would say, completely stable, but I definitely had 2 parents my entire life growing up. And it was very necessary to have a mom and a dad, to have those different polarities, you know, influencing you. It was very important. It's very necessary.
So did you have any brothers?
Yeah, I have a brother. My dad, it's actually my oldest biological sibling is my brother. And we didn't grow up in a house just with them. You know, just my sister and I. She's just a year older than I am. So we grew up. My mom and her 2 girls.
Right.
Yeah. It was interesting because my mom, she was always there. You know what I mean? Like we lacked nurture. We didn't lack structure, and we lacked nurture, you know. So conversations about sex would just come up as a story she would tell us. It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna sit you down, I'm gonna have a conversation with you, let you know about the birds and the bees. It was just, you know, if something came up and we had to talk about it, but we never had a conversation about sex. My mom never sat us down and talked about sex. Any of those things. We crossed those bridges when we got there.
Right.
Yeah. My dad was a big influence in a lot of ways when it comes to sex, when it comes to life experiences. Like, he prepared us in a way. He was more eager to sit and talk about things like that, you know, so.
Do you feel like your parents prepared you for high school or the real world?
In a way, I feel like I was prepared because I always was a great listener, and I always absorb everything. So even if we're having a conversation and it's a general conversation, I'm pulling what I can pull from the conversation. So if my mom's telling a story and she might be joking around telling the story, I'm pulling information and absorbing it and using it to help me become a better person and make better decisions. But far as, you know, sitting, we didn't have it. It was different. Like, life was always my biggest teacher. Right. Life was always my biggest teacher. My mom, she had a lot of stuff. My mom suffered from substance abuse. We just put it out there. Like, she struggled with substance abuse growing up. So we had her, but we didn't really have her. Right. You know, like we lacked the nurture, which is a really big influence in evolving and becoming an adult. You know, but I feel like in my life where I lack nurture, it's a priority that I give my son nurture and show him love and tell him, embrace him and speak life into him, because I didn't really have those things.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I didn't have that sort of like love. And I think growing up as a young woman, those are the things that you gravitate to, trying to figure out the things that were missing. You are sort of like pulling from life, like all you can pull from it, but you may be looking for love in all the wrong places. You know what I mean? And the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like generational curses, you know what I mean? Like, man, a lot. Mental health being the biggest thing for me, because I feel like if you are grounded mentally, I think that there are so many other things in your life that you'll be able to juggle, you'll be able to balance and create a sort of, I guess, homeostasis. But like mental health, like I teach my son, because I know directly, you know, how, you know, my parents struggled. Like as an adult, I can look in retrospect, I can say, oh man, you know, hey, mom was depressed, or dad was, you know, going through this or these things. So I make it in my intention to, you know, safeguard my son in a way where I teach him about it. You know, if I'm having a bad day, I don't hide my bad days from him. If I'm, you know, if things aren't really well, I keep him abreast on things, where so it's okay to cry, it's okay to talk, it's okay to let these things out, you know, so that way he doesn't become my age and he's reaching back and trying to fix a lot of things. You know what I mean? So mental health is a really big one. Becoming a leader, being a leader, knowing what those things are, you know, because we think we're leaders until we're called to lead. You know what I mean? So those are my biggest things. Because those are things that we suffer with. Like we just, not I'm going to say suffer with, but we experience. Every individual people have those experiences. You know what I mean? So it's unique to people in general. But for me, my biggest thing that I teach with my son is knowing how to stay grounded mentally and emotionally, and definitely just taking care of yourself and making big decisions. Because those are the things that I had to get with time. I had to get with life. I had to get wrong to get right. So, you know, those are the ways that I try to safeguard my son and guide him in ways like that.
So you're raising a teenage son.
Yes.
He'll be 14.
He'll be 14 in May.
Be 14 in May.
Yes, yes.
So the purpose of Letters was reaching back to young girls, but I think it's equally important to reach back to our young boys. So what lessons are you teaching him, like how to navigate his teen years, like about sex? You know, we have the whole Me Too movement about consent. A lot of things. Yeah.
Like I've been fortunate enough. My son right now, he hasn't peaked in that way yet, but the conversations are still there. Let him know that, man, it's different. I mean, it's always been different, but right now for their generation, it's different. And just being an individual, most importantly, I think will help teenagers in general, and especially young men. It's like, because everybody's trying to find something to grab a hold on to feel, you know, to love, to be a part of. And, you know, it's difficult having a young man, you know. And my son dad, he's deceased. So I'm not going to say it's all on me, but, you know, it's sort of, in a way, it's all on me to make sure that he gets the things that he's supposed to get. Within reason, you understand? Within reason. So with that being said, I try to make sure that my son is loved and that he know what love is, and primarily that he understands self-love. You know, like that's the biggest thing, the struggle with being confident in a way, you know. So I just encourage him a lot and let him know that, man, you know, it's hard. I'm not ready. We talk about sex, you know, we discuss sex. As a mom, we're never going to be ready to let our babies go. But I do talk to my son about sex. It's not awkward for me. It's weird to him. He understands it. He's receptive. But I don't know how I'm going to really feel once that day comes. And if he tells me, or if I find out, I just make sure that he has all the information that he needs. I let him know the good things about it, or what could be good about it, the not so good things about it, so he's prepared. and he's prepared, and let him know about, like you mentioned, the consent. It's a big thing. Like, it doesn't happen. It can happen at any time. We have middle school, almost high schoolers, and it's almost like they have experiences that they're experiencing in school now that you would think that they wouldn't be experiencing it. And it's almost like, for me, it's scary. It's very scary. It's very scary. Okay, so I live with my mom, and my mom always maintained like long-term relationships. Like, I can never remember my mom being single, being a bachelorette. She's always maintained like long-term relationships. So naturally, by nurture, I've done the same. And maybe naturally by nurture, I've picked up on some of the habits or behaviors that I've seen, so I think it does. Seeing how like my parents' relation, like I said, my dad passed away when I was 16. So although I remember a lot, it's like I was 16 and my life was like really like just beginning, and he was already gone. So I can tell a lot of stories about my mom, and just to see how she relation. Yeah, I picked up on a lot of the negative habits, the clinginess, the neediness, the codependency, and things like that. Naturally, and those are the things that we learn, and we have to unlearn and relearn, teach ourselves the right way. But yeah, I do think that is important to see it. And I can also see how my relationship with my mom and seeing how she relation trickles down into how my son relation. You know what I mean? So like we talked about generational curses early, like stopping those things and making sure like my interactions are positive, because I have this kid that's following me, that's looking up to me, that I'm mentoring into life, and I don't want his life to look like his grandparents' life via me. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important for me just to acknowledge things like my parents, like my mom, like it's almost like she gravitates to I've noticed that she's gravitated to and when you're not well, you gravitate to things, and you're attracted to things that's not really well. You know what I mean? So a lot of her decisions were, she did the best that she can do. So naturally, hey, that's how mom did it. That's how we do it, but life teaches you a different lesson, and you learn, I'm not going to do it this way. I need to do it another way. But as a result of that, you learn what you don't want. You learn how to not be. You know what I mean? So yeah, I had childhood trauma. I was a toddler, and I remember the incident, but I'll tell you the story. My mom, she necessarily didn't get into trouble. She got in with somebody that got into some trouble. And to make a long story short, my mom had to jump out of a window with her two, at that time, toddlers. And traumatically, I still remember that event. Although I was a toddler, I still have, visions, and I still remember that event. Of course, not completely vividly, but I do remember the event. And being a baby at that age, experience something as traumatic as being dropped out of a window, certain things come to haunt you. So what happened for me was that period showed up in my life as anxiety. You know what I mean? Just because of the nature of the event, it showed up in my life as anxiety. But actual having trauma in comparison to what, other people trauma, I didn't have any childhood traumatic experiences like that. A lot of it was just from, lack of, I'm not going to say lack of love, or just maybe lack of understanding, lack of nurture, which leads to, loneliness and things like that you have. So, but that was it. My trauma, I had trauma when I was a baby. You know what I mean? I was 3 years old, but the effects from that still manifested in my adult life. You understand? So but that, yeah, no drastic, dramatic trauma that I feel like that would have influenced my life negatively, or, you know, impact my life in a way where I can say, you know, that it was traumatic.
So just wrapping up the family portion of the interview, can you name like 2 generational curses that you witnessed, like even from your grandparents, your parents, that you were really intentional about changing in your life?
Yeah, definitely. Like, one of the biggest things that's most profound to me is just like mental health. Like, I've noticed like depression being like a really big thing, and not just my family, but most families, among my peers. And nutrition, for me, it's like health. It's almost like I'm gonna die from eating the wrong things or making terrible decisions. So for me, the generational curse for me would be definitely I want to break that generational cycle of supporting and making sure that you have like a well-balanced like mental health state, and definitely nutrition, because my family has some nutritional issues that consequently they have negative health benefits, and that's just not anything that I want to continue on with generations, starting with me and my son. No, like in retrospect, like looking back, like I know I've probably always needed therapy. My mom should have probably gotten us in therapy a long time ago, just because of some of that one childhood event that I felt like really, you know, mom may have thought we were babies, we didn't remember it, but it traveled with us. I didn't go to therapy until I'm 33. I didn't go to therapy until I was like 26 years old. And for me, it was a really hard decision to make, because it was a hard decision for me to make because I knew I needed help, but I didn't want to admit it. You know, I didn't want to admit that I needed help. I didn't want to face it. I wasn't ready to face it, but I knew I needed help. So I knew it was something that I needed to do, just to kind of get my thoughts in order, to kind of get myself grounded. So I've been in therapy for a couple years. I enjoy it. I think it's really beneficial. My perspective on therapy when I first went was that these people are going to change me. Like, all these problems that I have I'm gonna go in there, they're gonna wave their magic wand, sprinkle their fairy dust, and I'm gonna be well. I'm not gonna suffer anymore. And it wasn't like that. It was like, bring your stuff to therapy, but you have to do the work. And then I didn't know, and I was like, it's not working, you know. I quit therapy because my therapist doesn't understand. And I was 26, I was still learning. Now, as a more mature and understanding adult, I understand that you have to do the work, you have to put the work in, and I really appreciate it. If I would have chosen a time in my life, I probably would have wanted to get therapy when my dad passed away when I was 16. I would have opted for therapy then, you know, just be able to process things better, and like learning about the death experiences. I probably would have always been in therapy. I encourage it. I support it. I recommend it. It's mandatory in my house. And it doesn't mean that you have to have an issue. It doesn't mean that something has to have been, you have to have went wrong, and no, it's just an outlet. It's an understanding for people. So it's mandatory in my house. Like, my son is in therapy. He has to stay in therapy until he's an adult, you know, and like, I pledge my life to therapy. So yeah, it becomes highly recommended from me, and it's necessary, you know.
So speak to the person watching that wants to try therapy, but they're a little nervous, just about like maybe your first experience, like with therapy, like how, from when you walked in the door, like some of the things that happened.
You know when you need someone to talk to. You know when things are not going well. And even when things are going great, you could be having trouble making a decision. It could be a decision about what school, what college you want to go to, what high school you want to go to. what boy you want to choose, you know. But for anything, like, I recommend it. Just do it. It definitely is going to like save your life, realistically, and it's a journey. Like, the destination. Now, how do I say it? The journey is the destination. So we look to arrive at a point or instant in life, and we miss out on all the great things that are happening in between. So I would recommend therapy to anyone. I would recommend it because not only are you sitting across from someone who's willing to open up their lives and their time to help you and guide you through, like, you create a path for yourself that you are, when it's almost like you are able to, with therapy, what I've learned with therapy is that you come to the table with, let's just say, all your stuff, and you don't know that before you walk through the door, you already have the answers to all of these questions that you're bringing to your therapist. So it's just important to know, and it's a reassurance that you know that everything that you have is already like within you, you know. But therapy is a good guide, is a good vehicle to get you to where you want to be, especially emotional, definitely mentally. So as a child, I felt like, in a way, it's almost like my 13-year-old self, my 16-year-old self wanted therapy, but that was mom's job, you know, like, that was mom's job to recognize that, or that was our parents' job, our guardian's job to recognize that something was wrong and to get us, and if we were delinquents, they would be ready to kick us off somewhere. So, you know, I didn't know that I can raise my hand and say, hey, yeah, I need help, I want help, you know. But looking back, like, I knew I had anxiety. I used to bite my nails, right? So I knew I've always had some form of anxiety. Back then, it wasn't just, we didn't recognize nail biting as anxiety in my home or in my family dynamic. It just was habitual. It was just a learned behavior, a gross learned behavior. It wasn't, you know, related to any stressful things. Because then, of course, what that does, that if you know that a habit that your child had to be biting nails, it makes you have to look in the mirror and see what's going on in my home for my child to be having this form of anxiety or whatever. So for me, looking back at my younger self, definitely, I would have been getting therapy at the age of 13 when you know what I mean? Because like I said before, that childhood trauma that happened when I was a toddler followed me, you know, throughout my entire life, you know, in ways, and definitely in ways of form of anxiety, manifest into depression and doing just negative thought processes, low self-love, and people look at me like, you're great, your personality. It's like, man, when you go home and you deal with all these things, you know. But definitely, I recognize some of those different experiences that I had when I was a teenage. My teenage self was trying to, my teenage self always tried to, I guess, figure it out, you know. So I spent a lot of time trying to like figure out exactly what was I doing, especially because the nurture was lacking in my home. Like, the structure was there, the discipline was there, the people were there, we had everything, but actual nurture, and it's something that I feel like as an adult, had I knew exactly what nurture felt like or what nurture looked like, maybe some of the decisions that I made growing up, you know, would have been different, more positive. Not to say that they were negative, but they would have been better decisions, from a better thought out place, you know. Yeah. At 15, I accepted who I was at 15. I'm not gonna say, there were things about me, like when I was young, like I always thought like I had this gigantic, huge, like pig nose. I always thought like I looked at myself and I always thought I was beautiful, right? I always looked at myself and thought, you're beautiful, because that's all, you know, my dad would enforce. They would always, you know, speak those things. So I loved what I looked like. I just didn't like how I felt, you know. And for me, it was always trying to find balance with that. But like, I remember like being insecure about like my nose being the only thing I would see in pictures, when I was like, oh, I had this big nose. And then there was a point where it was like, I guess they say you grow into it. It was a point where it was like, oh, you know, it's just my nose. I mean, I can't change it, you know. And I began to love it. And that's what it was for me. But like I said, a lot of stuff was internal for me. Just experiencing like some of the things that I witnessed growing up in my house, and I felt like a child should have never witnessed. And a lot of those ideas and a lot of those experiences and encounters we bury, we put back. So only more recently am I able to say, let me go back and open this closet. Let me go back and let me dig up this box and open this box and actually go through the things that's in this box and figure it out, versus just burying it and not dealing with it, because those things manifest in different ways, right? That follow us throughout our entire life. And it constitutes how we relation. It constitutes how we interact with people and a lot of different things. My 15-year-old self, she was confident. She was who was she? No, she was confident. She loved herself. I guess my 15-year-old self struggled with what was happening inside and the things that was going on in a home dynamic. And it was just always me just trying to find balance. But I would look back and say that at my 15-year-old self, my teenage self was looking for love, looking for that hug, you know, looking for that nurture, you know. Like my dad was like the absolute complete nurture. Like that's just who he was. He was a man's man, but he was just great at nurturing. And my mom was great at what she did, but she did what she can do, you know. Her mom wasn't great on nurturing. So of course that's a generational curse that follows down. It's almost like she did what she can do. But like I said, when my dad died, I'm like, where's the love? Where are the hugs? Where's the I love yous? I can't really remember, like, you know, those things. So my teenage self was looking for like somebody to like love me, not parent me per se, but like love me, like how my dad used to love me. And I just think maybe I dealt with my dad's death in a way that that wasn't really healthy. So maybe I was just really looking for dad to be back, or looking for that love that he gave me. But by my mom, I didn't really know she lacked nurture until my dad wasn't present. You know what I mean? So my 15-year-old self was looking for a nurture, looking for self-acceptance. You know what I mean? So yeah, so for a long time, my mom dealt with her issues. For a long time, I lacked that, you know. So that's one of the important things, that I make sure that whatever I'm going through, my son knows what it feels like to be loved, nurtured, disciplined, have structure, and those different dynamics that I felt like impact my life. Not just negatively, but in a confusion way too, impact my life, passed down to make sure that he doesn't have the same experiences that I've had, or he knows that what the possibilities are. Hey, this is my story. This is John's story. You choose what story you're gonna have, you know. So
are you still friends with anybody from high school?
Yeah, I'm friends with few of my people from high school. We're not really like close knit, you know, but we do keep in contact. Like I said, my school was small, so when everybody graduated, how many was in our graduating class? If any of my fellow alumni see this video, please pardon my memory. It was, what was it, 25 of us? I don't remember. It was so long ago. I graduated 2004. It's 2020, just to be exact. Okay, so.
Like, what are the characteristics?
Man, now it's a complicated conversation, really, because it can either go one or two ways. I guess if you don't look too much into it, you know that a true friend, you can't say what a person will never do, but while you're in a friendship, you know what it looks like to be a friend. You know what a real friend looks like. If you're a real friend, let's just say you're a real friend. You know what a real friend looks like because it's almost like they're a reflection of you. So you don't have to wait to call your friend calls you. You don't have to wait for things to happen. I guess loyalty is a big thing. I guess it all depends individually on the people. It's hard. It's complicated because what you will say a true friend is, for me, I'm gonna say a true friend is a loyal person. A true friend is a person that's gonna be there for you, advise you, whether you're right, whether you're wrong, and stand up for you. You know, your true friends aren't just gonna be like, yeah, girl, you look good, and knowing you don't look good. They're gonna be a mirror for you. You know, they're gonna support you in all your endeavors. They're gonna encourage you is a big thing. For me, and learning about my true friends, is that understanding that everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own unique situation that they're going through. Being understanding, I guess true friends are more than somebody you can just talk to anyone. You can have a conversation with anybody. You can spill your business or your beans to anybody. But I think a true friendship stands the test of time. And I only think that you know that through how you relation with people positively. And time is the only thing that can tell that you're a true friend. But you don't have to buy your friends. You don't have to do things that is out of your moral code or your moral standard for people to gravitate to you, for people to like or want to hang around with you. They love you for who you are. If your bad days, your worst days, you know what I mean? So true friendship for me now is so important. I guess as an adult, I do have my childhood friends. One of my best friends, we've been friends for, oh my God, since we were like 13, and we're thick as thieves. But I'm not a part of that no new friends thing. Like, you know, some people are like, no new friends. I'm not really a part of that because like we're constantly evolving and we always changing. And what was for you when you were 14 may not be for your 30-year-old self. So I'm with I'm okay now. I'm okay with change and evolving and positivity. And it's not just proving yourself, not just about just being unique and being an individual and being yourself. I feel like your true friends, you'll know. It's just a thing that time tells you. Trusting is a big deal because we are betrayed so much, not just in friendship, but through family, through our social environment, through work. We're betrayed and we lock ourselves down where we're not really trusting. So if a person is locked down emotionally and they're, they've been betrayed so many times, it's hard for them to build true friendship. But friendship is something that I think stands the test of time. So what I'm saying is that by how much time you put in, how you relation. If it's toxic, it's probably not a good friendship. If it drains you, it's probably not a good friendship. If the person calls and you have to decide whether or not you want to take their call, or if you get anxiety it's probably not. I'm not going to say a true friendship, but it's probably not a healthy one. It probably could use some therapy or some mediation. If you love an individual and you love who they are and they love who you are, and your friendship is toxic in a way, and you love this individual, it probably could stand some sort of mediation. You know what I mean? Or to just see. But we're evolving, you're growing, you're gonna always meet new people, you have to give people chances. It's just how it is in life, so. So for me, my virginity story, I was like, I guess the last of my friends Well, I was one of like my group of friends, my little clique. I would say clique that I grew up with. I was the last of my friends to lose my virginity. All of my friends were completely like sexually active by the time. Well, a few of my close friends, they were already tallying, and I was just still a virgin. So I thought it was something that I was late doing. I thought maybe I was missing out on something. But for me, like, I waited. I fought boys growing up. Like, I like boys. I didn't really like boys. Like, I fought boys a lot growing up, so I wasn't really ready to have sex with boys. I didn't like them, And I was a late bloomer. Like, I was 13, 14. Like, I was 13. I remember being 13. Like, I still was into, like, dolls. So, I was sort of a late bloomer in that regard. So, when I did get to the point where I wanted to have sex, it was experimental for me. It was really experimental. I was turning 18. So for my peers, they were already active at like, they had been active, so I was a grandma by the time I lost my virginity. So for me, it was an experience. I would have waited. It was a disappointment. I thought it was just this life-changing experiment that was going to be fireworks, and it was just the complete opposite. Like, virginity back. Like, I wanted it back after that. And, it was too late. But I don't have any regrets. I don't have any regrets about it. I would want my future daughter virginity story to be different. I would want her virginity story to be something that she is not experimenting with, and she's not just doing it because she's been a follower. Let's just be blunt, and she's not doing it because she's being left out. I would want her to know that, listen, you have like a gift. Like, this is your last prize that you have before the world gets a hold of you. And I would want my daughter, I would want Bella to know, like, you can wait as long as you want, because it's something that you're never gonna get. It's like life. Like, once you have it and it's gone, you're never gonna get it back. And if you're not conscious about who you give it to, and then once you have the experience, you're gonna be like, if it was gonna hurt that bad, I would have gave it to, I liked him more. You know what I mean? So it's like, regrets, it's just consciously and just knowing. And also, like, my virginity story would have been different had I had like nurture and I knew who I was, and if I loved myself like unconditionally, like throughout. I loved everything, like on the outside, on the inside. If I was whole at 17, 18, I would have probably, listen, these jewels you're not getting. I would have had that sort of energy with it, because it is so sacred. It really is sacred. Like, that one event could change your life completely, so I want my future daughter to hold on to her jewels as long as she can and give it to somebody that's worth it, that's not going to exploit her and that's going to take that experience from her. Because you have that experience, and if it's not positive, you get negative from it, and you take those negative things and you create more negative stuff. So I would want my future daughter virginity story to be mapped out. Right. I want planned out, mapped out, because let's say she has a negative experience and she loses her virginity to someone she thinks great, and he breaks her heart. Think about the next guy, or how she's gonna feel about it, and is she able, is she strong enough, is she whole enough to understand and rebound from it and make positive decisions, and not look for love in all the wrong places, and not just become promiscuous. So for me, I'm okay with who I am. So for me, it led to me being like, let's just say like promiscuous. You know what I mean? I wasn't necessarily out there, but it was just something that, it was a way for me. I nurtured myself through. You know what I mean? Like, I nurtured myself through with it. And it was not healthy at all for me. Not emotionally, not mentally at all. So with that, I can go on to say love versus lust, when you talk about lust, you are speaking on something that's consuming, that's all consuming, that's like selfish in a way, right? You want your husband to lust for you once you guys are married, and once he pledges his monogamy to you. You're okay if your husband do it, but if you're not in like a grounded relationship or a long-term relationship, lust is a negative thing. But how I look at lust versus love, like lust being like something that can consume you like a fire, that is like selfish in a way. And I look at love, well, let's just funnel love like agape, like unconditional love. Like that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a consuming fire, then we're talking about unconditional love. So when you compare the two, it's like that in a way, you know? So when you're lusting a person, it's a physical desire to be with somebody. It's a physical desire to want something, right? And a lot of those times, let's talk about sex, like, you know, physical pledge to just want to sex you all day. I think that it's confusing, you know what I mean? Because it has felt like love. You know, this guy has eye on you, and you think he loves you. You know, you think that's love, and it's just lust, and it's confusing. But I think that you know the difference between lust and love, because unconditional love, right? Unconditional love is something that is supportive. You know, like a person has a desire to want to be with you, make you smile, right? Please you, right? Lust is just, it's consuming. It's like, think of it like a burning fire. It'll consume you, right? And there's no way that I'm not gonna say it's positive, can't come from it, but when you're comparing it to love, lust will consume the love or possible love or lack thereof. So I try to make sure, like, I've experienced them both. You know what I mean? Like, I know what it's like to love a person. I know what it's like to love a person, to lust a person and love a person. And I also know that there were people in my life that were worthy of love, but I could only lust them. You know, I can only give but so much. Maybe it wasn't fair. You know, I've been a victim on the other side of that too. So I think it's really important just knowing the difference. Knowing your worth, it is gonna like help you a lot with being able to determine the difference. And sometimes in life, you may be at a point where lust is good for you, but maybe that's something that you choose that you want. But as an individual, as a whole person, like being healed, being whole, you want to always go for like love. Because all the desires that you're gonna get from lust, it's a perk. It comes with love. You know, all of the attention you're gonna get from lust is a perk of love. You know, it's like, it's a benefit. It's like once you get this thing, all those benefits that you have that comes from lustful behavior, those things are flipped in a way where it's positive and it's a benefit from it. Yeah, so you had our lustful experiences, and you have your unconditional. Like I'm an unconditional lover like now, and it's just like going through my life and, you know, having love stories, having love experiences. For me, like, it's important for me now as a woman now to make sure that like anything that I love, anything that I touch, anything that I pledge to love is not just like surface level, like it's unconditional. So if I choose to love you and I choose to be your friend, like know that you're getting it from like a unconditional place. I didn't always have that. I didn't always know that. It was sometimes where I could walk away from what I thought was love, but now it's like when you reach a point where you understand the difference of love and unconditional love, it's not easy to walk away from things. Like, you love your friend unconditionally. If you guys have an argument, and if you can just walk away, or a disagreement about something, if you can just walk away from it, maybe it's not an unconditional love. Unconditional love, if you have a disagreement with your friend, you're able to sit down, you're able to have a discussion, you guys are able to come to a conclusion or understanding, hopefully resolve and resume your relationship, or figure out what's best for you guys. So it's the same thing in a romantic encounter. You know, it's the same thing. But lust for me is all consuming. love is all blooming, I guess, if I had to compare the two.
So talk to the girl, just how can you clearly like tell the difference? Like, because a lot of people think like, oh, like if I have sex with this person,
Yeah.
they're gonna love me.
Yeah. Oh no.
They're gonna stay with me, they're gonna choose me over all the other people, situationships, expectations, stuff like that.
Yeah. We want that, right? Like we want like who we choose to like come into our lives and just be like God, you know, but no, I think, like I said, like I think a lot of times like I can sit here and tell you my story and say, hey, this is how you can specifically identify, but like I say, like life is the ultimate teacher, and you know, like once you're there. But I would say, looking back on like lust, how I would be able to know the difference is it's a bunch of stories to say, but if you meet a guy, right, you meet an individual and he's interested in you for whatever reason, or she's interested in you for whatever reason, your preference is, it's almost like, is it all about sex? You know, like, is our every encounter about sex? Is everything sexual? Is everything, you know, physical? Are you interested in where my life is headed? Are you interested in the decisions I make? Are you interested in what my moral character is? Do you want to know what my trauma is? So I think that when a person loves you, they're not just they're interested in you as a whole individual versus how they can benefit from what's between, you know what I mean, your legs. So, but I think, like I said before, if you don't have like an idea of what self-love looks like, or you don't have an idea of what self-worth is, it's so easy to fall into a lust relationship because lust are all the things that we are missing or maybe missing. It feels like that. So like if you have daddy issues, lust might show up to you as a guy who, you know, can give you all the things daddy had, but he may only want to just sex you. But is he interested in the things that you have going on in your life and where you're going, where you're headed? So for me, I think you know, it's just being able to identify, because listen, you may not be in a space where what you want, maybe a person is in a space where they want lust, so they're not ready to evolve in that manner. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, so let's just say like a person that doesn't have like guidance or let's say a person that's like not in therapy, don't have a great support system, nobody to guide them, you know, a person wants what they want. But I just think it's more important to like know who you are as an individual, know what you want. Find love, like find yourself, be with yourself, love yourself, and I don't want to say that, edit this, lust yourself first, you know what I mean? Like love yourself first. It was hard for me to identify. It was hard for me to identify what love was in comparison to lust, because I just thought that if he looks at you a certain way, if he does a certain thing for you, that he automatically loves you. But no, he just automatically loves the lust that he's in with you. You know what I mean? So for me, that was something that I had to learn through experiencing a lot of experiences. You know what I mean? So for me, to another young woman, a young woman, or whoever, young man, gentleman, I think everything, like those answers come within self. Like you have had to have like an identity, right? Because if you're confused in your mind, you're gonna go and fall and do anything. So I think it's important. Identifying lust, you know, it's hard to tell it to a younger, beginning active person, because like their body is like, give me sex, right? Like they're craving for it. So are they really looking for a person to like love them, court them? No, they're looking for their body. They're reacting off of what's happening in their body, right? Or they're reacting off of what's lacking inside of them. So it's easier to, you know, go for the guy who'll say, hey baby, you look nice, let's go out, you know, fake court you, you know, and things like that. But I learned the hard way. I learned the long way. I learned the long way. I tell my son, like, I share my experiences with him. My son, he'll be 14, so he's been there with me through my experiences, and I identify with him. That way he sees, he has an idea. Like, hey, he can say, well, maybe this person loves me. Maybe this person can benefit from me. You know what I mean? So, yeah. All right, so my greatest heartbreak. I kind of have like a few, you know, because like my heart really broke like a lot when my dad passed away. Like my heart broke, and like I thought, like, you know, man, it was difficult. Like like my dad, you know, like he taught. I'm just giving you a backstory. Like he was the dad that talked to us about menstruating. He was the dad that sat and braided our hair for school. Like, you know what I mean? He was the dad that did all those things, so we were close. So when my dad passed away, I felt like numb, right? So any man after that, it was like I'm comparing him to how my dad made me feel. I'm comparing it to the love my dad gave me. And if you don't love me like my dad, you don't love me, right? So my heart broke because I think it geared me to a path of really like trying to figure out how to love, right? And maybe I made some not so great decisions based off that experience. Romantically, my heart been broke a few times, right? I kind of really, I don't want to really say my greatest heartbreak, because I kind of feel like, you know, like heartbreak is heartbreak, you know what I mean? So for me, my greatest heartbreak, man, like it was difficult. Like it was my most significant heartbreak. I don't mean to change the dynamic, but my most significant heartbreak was, it was rough. Like it made me question like who I was. It made me question, you know, how I did things. A lot of stuff, you know. It made me not love myself, right? It made me try to figure out better ways to love myself. I'm trying to think like how it made me feel, like negatively and then like positively. Like all of the things that I thought that I was healed from, you know, it's like them wounds being like scratched back open. So it was almost like, you know, it makes you want to like shut down. It was rough. It was rough for me. It was rough.
What did you learn from it?
I learned from heartbreak that most important for me is to always stay true to yourself, right? Like whatever decisions that you make for yourself, like keep write them down and do not yield from them. And because my heart been broke a few times, right? And in retrospect, it's like, man, had you know, stayed true to yourself, right? Which is one of your core values, right? Had you stayed true to yourself, maybe you would have not been here or been in a situation. But me choosing to not stay true to myself, right? So that's the biggest thing. It's just staying true to myself, staying true to like who I am and the decisions that I make. Because when you become you're in a relationship, right? You become one with the person. You sort of like, you know, you give away what they say. You give your eyes for what is it? You take away the eyes and you give the eyes for the weeds. Right. Yeah, right. So you yield a lot, right? You yield a lot in a relationship, and sometimes yielding, you unconsciously, right, or indirectly, like you can, right? I did. I wasn't true to myself. I didn't stay true to myself. So I beat myself up a lot about it, and it didn't help me at all, you know, like emotionally get through. It plagued me a little bit mentally, because of course it plays on you, because you're going back in your mind and now you have these negative images of yourself. You have these negative self-thoughts. You have this low self-love, maybe. I don't know. But for me, yeah, I learned to completely just stay true to myself. Like you cannot yield. You cannot yield until you get a ring. Like you you can't yield, right? You can't yield. So I stayed true to myself. Another thing that I learned from my biggest heartbreak is that like your heart heals. Like it's not like a actual like ceramic shape heart that once it breaks it's gone forever. No, it's the beautiful thing about it. Like you'll get it back. Like it heals, and you'll get a second chance at it if, right, you work on yourself. If you take the time that you need to invest into your emotional health, right? You get it back. You'll get a second chance at it. So just knowing that, hey, this didn't work out, I'll get a second chance at it. You know, God willing, I'll get a second shot at it. So those are my biggest things I learned from my greatest heartbreak. I just think that decision making, like staying true to yourself, because once you make decisions, it's like you can't go back. So I beat myself up a lot about some of the decisions I made, because I know that, girl, had you stayed true to that first core value, you know, things may have not experienced the experiences you had with that individual, you know, but you will save yourself from your heart being broke again.
So talk to the girl that, let's just say she's maybe in 11th grade. She's experiencing like maybe depression, maybe even suicidal thoughts, heartbreak, whatever. Like, what can you offer her that you know now that you wish you known then? Don't keep it in, right? Like, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to write about it. It's okay to get it out, because you, among the rest of the million people in the world, are having the same experience at the same exact time. And I went through it. My friends went through it. My relatives went through it. So we all have these same experiences that we go through. It's just making a decision to be strong, right? So I think like not keeping a lot bottled in, because what happens is you bottle everything in now, and then once you reach the peak of your life, you may be successful, you may have a great life, but inside you're in pieces, and then you're struggling to get help, and now you're running to therapy, you know what I mean? And now you're trying to get help, or maybe life is becoming harder. So I would say, one, like slow down, right? Be gentle with yourself in a way that you understand that you are not in it by yourself. Someone that you know, someone that was before you, has come before you, has had the same experience. So it's just not anything, because we like to have our experiences and we like to compartmentalize them, and we like to keep them to ourselves. What if you had a person that was going through exactly what you went through, and they had the remedy to show you a positive way out, or you know, get you through it? You kind of what you do, you sort of you slight yourself of that healing, right? If you keep it bottled in. So talking about it is a great thing. I will always say just talking about it, getting it out, write about it. If you're gifted, whatever your gifts are, put it in your gifts. If you write, if you sing, if you dance, you know, but like definitely like just get it out and be gentle with yourself. Find people that are genuine to you and gravitate to them. Find people that look like what you want to look like in the future, gravitate to them. You know what I mean? Just because we all have had that experience. We all have had our heart broke. We've all have had nights where we thought we wasn't going to make it through the next morning. We've all struggled, you know, test taking. We've all suffered with being popular, with being bullied. We've all we've been there. So it's not like you're the only one. It's like you have a world full of people that can relate to you. So I would say first, just like getting it out, not keeping it bottled in. Making sure you have a support system. If you don't have a support system, like you have to create one. You cannot wait. You can't wait. It's too late if you wait. Like it's too late if you wait to create. You know what I mean? And some people don't have some people home life isn't really, you know, supportive of that. Some people have parents that work a lot. Some people have parents that they're just, or guardians that they're just not, they just don't feel comfortable with opening up to them. Find somebody or find something, an outlet you can do. The last thing that I would say is
you can't keep it in, because what's in always come out. And you're able to battle it when you're in 11th grade, you're 17, you're 16, 17. You're able to battle it and keep it under control now. But what happens when you're 30, you're 35, and it comes out, because it's gonna, like, that valve of pressure is gonna bust. And what happens then? It's turmoil, it's toxic, it's hard, and, you know, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like, for you to have those experiences. But no, it's life, and you're going through life. And you're going through everything that we've all been through. And what you're going through now is something that somebody behind you is going to go through. So you have to, like, just create a support system if you don't already have one. Create one, start. You have to be supportive. And you also have to, like, be the person, be the individual that, like, you want, right? Let's say you want a great friend, right? You have to be a great friend, right? We have to mirror each other in that way. A young girl that's going through that in school, because I didn't really struggle in high school a lot. Like, I mean, I was great at school, I was great at academics, even though I wasn't really great at all sports. Like, I played, I was active, but I would say I slighted myself because I battled a lot. Like, never, that's the worst thing you can do, because I'm telling you, like, it will come out. Like, you shake that soda bottle, like, you turn that cap, it's going to explode, and you don't want to explode at the wrong time. Like, when you're in the peak of your career, everything's great. You don't want to explode when you're, like, in the middle of raising a family, and, like, you don't want those things to come out, because when they come out, they're not positive, right? So it's up to you to make sure that you get them out in a positive way, you know. So your life won't necessarily say it won't be easy, because life is life, you know. Life is beautiful, you know, but it can be rough, right? And you don't want those things to, like, crack you down. So just, like, don't battle. Like, man, I don't have many regrets, but if I could change something, I would have been just singing my story a long time ago. I would have been letting everything out then. Now it's like, I got to get it out, right? Because I know that it isn't healthy, but now I have to make sure that I get it out and it's safe, right? It's safe from my home. It's safe from my friends. I'm not just exploding on my friends because I'm angry, right? I have to make sure, I have to take steps that now all of that stuff that I kept bottled in, secrets, you know, things or whatever that I was going through, I have to make sure they come out safe now. So I can't just shake my soda, right? My life, my issues, shake my soda and take the cap off and have an expectation that it's not going to explode. I have to ease it off, like, piece by piece. So get that stuff out of you. Like, don't, like, your body system is like your life, and you got to keep it healthy. And it, like, starts here, right? So you want to make sure, like, you get that stuff out. Like, if you're going through it, talk to somebody. Talk to, not anybody, but talk to somebody you can trust. And if you don't have it, you have to create it. You know, maybe you have to start a circle of people. Maybe you have to be the one that somebody can trust, right? So, but don't hold it in, and don't feel like you're alone, because trust me, you are among the millions of people that are having or have had or will have the same exact experience. Go to therapy. Really, like, I'm telling you, like, therapy has changed my life in so many ways. Like, I cry in therapy, I laugh in therapy, I can be, you know, I get it out. I would tell my teenage self to just slow down, right? What I just said a few moments ago, slow down, be gentle, like, because life around you, if you had, like, issues or you're struggling with things, life around you is going to be the complete polar opposite. So it's up to you to make a decision that you're going to be gentle with yourself, right? So I would tell my 15-year-old self to, hey, slow down. Like, you got another 30, you got another 17 years, right? 17 years left. So it's like, just slow down. Like, you'll get through it. I wouldn't rush so much. I would not have wasted so much time, you know, like, procrastinating. I would have, like, my core values now would have been my core values, you know, like, I would wake up on time, you know what I mean? Like, I would make sure that I meet my deadlines. I wouldn't play games with it. I would listen to my parents, right? So I always tell my son, like I'm his cheat sheet through life. So everything that I've been through, like you will in some way experience it similarly, right? It may not be the same exact way, but you'll have a heartbreak, right? It's general. You'll have somebody that betrays you. It's general. You'll have great experiences. You're going to have to make big decisions, right? Be it positive or not, right? So I would definitely, for me, like not waste time. Like be, like listen to my parents. Like listen to my guardians. And my mom said no, trust and believe that she has had some experience with it, and it's probably no for a good reason. So listen to your parents, be gentle with yourself, let it out. If it hurt, get it out, right? Because if like you're bleeding, you hold it, you do whatever you need to do to stop the bleeding. So like don't bleed inside, like, right, do what you need to do to get those things out safely, because you don't want to wait into you're at your peak in life and these things come out and then they could possibly destroy some things. But it's healthy if you do it. It's beneficial in a way that you will always appreciate yourself for doing it. My 15-year-old self, she was she had fun. Like I had fun as a child, so I had my innocence for a very long time, right? And I was fortunate to not have had experienced some of the things that I know people have experienced in their lives. So I'm grateful and I'm blessed for that. My 15-year-old self would have definitely listened more to my mom. I've always listened to my parents, but I would have like taken like my mom, any adult, any elder, like I would have taken their words like literally. You know what I mean? Like if my mom say, hey, you need to study for this test, because I would literally be like doing it right now, because now those are things that you have to fix, habits and behaviors you have to recreate to be successful in life. Yeah.